Good evening. Happy St. Patty's Day. Before we start, there are some folks here in the audience that I would like to recognize. All those tan uniforms back there with the beautiful patches on them are some of our local Boy Scouts. We have some representatives from two troops visiting with us tonight. We've got troop number 1, which is an Athens troop, and they're led by Chuck Hanna and Joe Wyrick. And how many guys do y'all have with you? About 13, so they had to bring some others so we wouldn't have an unlucky number. So we've also got some scouts from troop 111, I believe. 1111 or 111? 1111, okay. And the boys from troop 1 are here tonight to witness a commission meeting so that they're working on their communications and citizenship and community merit badges, both of which are required badges to ultimately become Eagle Scouts. And they're going to be listening closely to what we do tonight, so y'all behave yourselves. And then they're going to do an analysis to give back to their scout leaders to be read, and there'll be a permanent record of what we do tonight. So let's behave ourselves. Guys, would y'all stand up, please, and let us all recognize you? And I think there are about 15 Eagle Scout ceremonies that I would like to be a part of, so y'all please remember me. Okay. So we will now begin our agenda-setting meeting. Welcome to you, those of you who are in the chamber here with us tonight, also those who are watching us or listening to us remotely. We're really proud that you have enough interest in your local government to be a part of our proceedings. If you'd like an agenda, they're to the right, just outside the doors. Those of you who are watching remotely can get an agenda from Athens-Clarke.com. If you have a cell phone tonight, would you please turn it off or to silent? We'll have 2 meetings tonight. There'll be a special called session, executive session for consideration of personnel issues, which will be immediately at the close of this meeting. Ms. Spratlin, would you call the roll for us, please?
Jefferson. Here. Sims.
Here.
Link.
Here.
Wright.
Here.
Bailey.
Here.
Neesmith.
Here.
Bale.
Here.
Harrod.
Present.
Gertz. Handy.
Here.
We have
Thank
a quorum.
you. We have a quorum. Do I have a motion to enter into executive session?
I so move.
All in favor? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we will. Now I would like to motion to adjourn our special
I would like to
session.
adjourn. I'll make a motion to adjourn the session.
Second that.
Have a motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We will now start our agenda setting session. There's no final action taken on any items tonight. The items that are discussed tonight will be acted on at our April 5th meeting. There are 2 opportunities for citizen input. The first is on our proposed consent agenda, which are items 1 through 6, and then we have on our new business items 7 through 10 under new business. The consent agenda public input will be first, and then I'll let you know when it's time to do the other one. And then the final thing that's on our discussion tonight is a planning commission recommendation, but we don't accept public input on that. There'll be a public hearing on that item at our before our business meeting on April 5th. So if anyone would like to speak to anything on our consent agenda, this is the time to come forward. Okay, seeing none, we'll come behind the rail. Is there any commissioner that would like to remove anything from consent agenda? Mr. Harrod.
Number 3 for some questions.
Thank you. Jean, do you have a pen? Thank you. Which one, Andy?
Number 3.
Number 3. Okay. Anyone else?
Number 3 was the one I was interested in.
Okay. And I need to let y'all know too that I have removed item 2 from the agenda. You'll probably see it again in about a month, but we've got some technical issues that we need to fix, so we're going to take that one off for this month. Okay. Would you like to go ahead and discuss your issues with that?
Sure. Thank you. So I have a couple of questions. This is the update to the drug and alcohol ordinance that's being proposed. So I just want to make sure that I am clear in my own mind. I did read the document, but I just want to make sure I'm clear. So we do not randomly test all of our employees. This is proposal just to test certain categories of employees based upon what kinds of activities they do. Is that correct?
That's correct. not only are there different categories of employees, but employees, if they are in an accident as well, would be tested. Certain situations beyond their classifications as well.
Okay, so but it is not a blanket, we test everybody if they work for the county, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And that's what I was fairly certain that was the case, but I just want to clarify for everybody who may be watching. The second question I had is, I noticed in here that it is a policy to drug test everybody who applies for employment with the county. Is that correct?
Of those certain categories.
Okay, so again,
yes.
that's just for those certain categories. It's not.
That's
for
my
all
understanding,
employees.
Robert. Yeah. Right.
Okay.
I think so too.
And how much does that cost?
We'd have to look that up for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I had a couple questions about that policy too. Some of these substances are perfectly legal for recreational use in other states. So it would be legal to partake of them, say if someone went on vacation in Colorado or something, and then if they were to come back here and get tested. I just feel like there's this weird gray area, considering we're talking about something that is legal in other states, and the effects of the substance might not persist beyond those few hours that you might be exposed to it. Yet you could end up getting in trouble for it. Say you're in a hot tub in a ski lodge in Colorado. So I just wonder if maybe if we should consider some verbiage in the policy that would account for those kind of situations. There just seems to be a real gray area there where these are perfectly legal substances in other states. I just want to bring that up.
Mr. Hamby.
I don't think there's too much gray area at all. Certainly I would imagine in those states, if you have a job and you're operating heavy equipment or driving to places, then you're probably not going to be taken in those recreational activities. So I'm fine with how it's written.
Yeah. Well, you could be exposed to them unintentionally. Well.
Anybody else? Okay.
We're going to leave it on consent or take it off?
Do you want to put it back on consent?
I would like an answer to my question before it goes back on consent.
Oh, okay. Well, let's take it off, Gene. We'll put that on new business, just handle its new business. Okay, we will now move to our new business since we finished with our consent. So any citizen who would like to speak to items 7 through 10, this is the time that you would come to the podium. And I need to remind you that you have each citizen has 3 minutes to speak. The light on Ms. Spratlin's desk will be green when you start, and it'll turn yellow at 2.5 minutes. And please have your remarks finished by the 3-minute time so that I won't have to interrupt you. But anybody that wants to speak to item 7 would be the time to come to our podium. I'm sorry, you need any of these items. Tim, you're here first, but 7 through 10, any of those.
7 and up.
Okay.
I am going to speak to item 7, Mayor and
Okay.
Commission. Tim Denson, 290 Midway Road. And I was very excited to hear about this idea of the Athens Transit Youth Ridership Program. This is the kind of forward-thinking, synergetic policies I think we should be doing. This sees public transit as something beyond just a economic driver and an item that can move people from place to place. I think it's integral to understand that individuals' opportunity in situations is directly connected to factors such as mobility, and that we can be using this to grapple with larger issues such as education, employment, even crime reduction, which this plays into. So I'm excited to see this happening, and as you know, the American Public Transit Association says every $1 invested gives you $4 of economic return, but this shows that those returns can go beyond just an economic standpoint and a transportation standpoint. So I'm excited to see this on there, and I hope that all of y'all are too.
Thank you, Mr. Denson. Anyone else?
Hello, Madam Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Paul Duncan. I'm the Associate Director of the Latin American and Caribbean Studies Institute at the University of Georgia. And I'm standing before you today specifically to speak about item number 8, the Community Development Block Grants. Casa de Amistad is an organization that has been in Athens for well over a decade, and I've been on the board of Casa de Amistad for over 5 years. And they actually applied for a CDBG grant this round. They didn't get it. We're hoping, we've already met with several of you on the board, and we're hoping actually the board and other members of the community are going to meet with you both individually and before your April meeting to discuss the proposal that Casa de Amistad had presented. CASA's community development block grant proposal scored very high by the review committee that was looking at this. In fact, I believe it scored higher than one of those that was chosen. But as a board, we're hoping that all of you will take an opportunity to really consider the implications of not providing support for this organization. Effectively, there are only 2 organizations that really serve Athens-Clarke County's Hispanic community. One is ALSES, Athens Latino Center for Education and Services, and the other one is Casa de Amistad. But they're both different organizations. Casa de Amistad serves those who are most in need of services, those who are most resource limited. ALSES charges for some of their services. Casa recognizes that there are many immigrants in this community that actually do not have the ability to pay, but they're definitely interested in sort of improving their circumstances. And just so we're clear on the demographics of Athens-Clarke County, there are 159 counties, as all of you probably know, in Georgia. Athens-Clarke County is 21st in terms of the number of Hispanics that live in this county. There are a couple other organizations, Oasis Católico Santa Rafaela, which is in Pine Woods, and the Pine Woods Library, but those really very specifically sort of serve that community in Athens-Clarke County. Casa de Amistad serves the entire city and metropolitan area of Athens. And so we're hoping that there might be some leeway, some possibilities of funding, whether it's through CDBG or other opportunities to continue providing funding in support of this organization. The board is very strong, very community-oriented. There are several board members also here who are going to speak, who are going to sort of talk about the importance of this organization here in Athens-Clarke County. So I hope you give it your due diligence in April when you're actually making considerations for funding for CDBG. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, someone else.
Whit Richardson, 500 Millage Heights. Board and Commissioners, Mayor, I just want to speak on behalf of Casa de Amistad, as it was one of the first organizations that I became involved with. Like Paul was saying, there's only a few organizations that do provide to the Hispanic community. I know that the community's done a needs assessment, as well as Paul's organization at UGA has done a needs assessment just for the Latin American community here. And there's so many adults that are provided literacy. I've seen it firsthand over at the Goodwill on the east side through CASA's programs, free of charge. And one thing that I've noticed is that these adults are unable to really communicate well with their kids because they don't have an understanding of English. So by these adults learning English, it's going to better equip their kids who are here, and their kids will be better in our educational systems and elsewhere. So when the needs assessment that Community Connection is completed, as well as Paul's community assessment on the Hispanic community comes back, we'll know more about what the needs are and where those dollars can really be put to good use. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson.
Good evening, Mayor and Board of Commissioners. My name is Rosanna Rivero, and I'm a professor with the College of Environment and Design here at the University of Georgia. And I wanted to also talk on behalf of Casa de Amistad and maybe expand a little bit on what the previous board members mentioned. I think Casa de Amistad, by providing the services that they provide in terms of education for Hispanic communities and it produced a big impact on the employment of the region or the area of the city, but I think also adds on the integration of these communities into our local community. So I think what Casa de Amistad is really important. I mean, we're talking about 300 families that are served every year by Casa. And I think this, if we think about this being almost 10% of the families here in Athens, it really makes an impact. We experienced last year when Caterpillar came, we had the opportunity to serve as facilitators between potential employees and Caterpillar. And I think that's just one example of something that would not happen if CASA hasn't been here. So I just want to stress the importance of not having an organization like this. Thank you. And
Thank you, Ms. Rivera.
I hope you will give us some consideration.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, Dawn Myers, 230 Millage Circle. Good evening, Madam Mayor and Commissioners. I want to loop back and speak just briefly on number 7, the Athens Transit Youth Ridership Program. I'm so excited about this. As a school social worker here in our county, what we do every day is try to remove barriers to access all of the wonderful opportunities we have in Clarke County, and transportation, as you well know, is a barrier for many. So I just did a little survey and talked to some students and some school district professionals to see how would our youth use this opportunity in the summer. Where would they go? We're all kind of curious. We haven't tried it before. So here are some of their ideas. Of course, those that are participating in the Great Promise Partnership would continue and be able to access their job sites, gaining real-world job experience while in high school, or take advantage and look for another part-time job, even not as a member of the Great Promise Partnership. They could go to the public library and all of the resources that exist there. They could take advantage of Leisure Services Report Card Rewards Program and have free pool passes and go swimming when it's 100 degrees in the middle of the summer. They could go to our Teen Matters clinics and access health care and services from health educators who are there. They could volunteer at Denny Tower with the elderly in our community, or the Emergency Food Bank, or any of the other number of volunteer opportunities that exist for teenagers. They could attend summer school. Last year we served 175 students in the Clarke County summer school held at the Athens Community Career Academy. They could attend Leisure Services camps that they may not have been able to otherwise, or be a camp counselor. They could help to save the Georgia Square Mall and go out to the mall, and that's what teenagers like to do in the summer. And College Factory exists out at the mall, so they could take advantage of the opportunities there. They could go to the grocery store to help out busy working single parents during the day. They could take college classes through our dual enrollment program at Athens Tech, Piedmont, or UGA, and CCSD pays for that, even summertime dual enrollment classes. They could attend SAT prep classes, but most importantly, they could gain independence, freedom, and build their self-esteem, and really build capacity to increase our adult ridership and use of the environmentally friendly public transportation option that we have here in our county. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Anyone else wish to speak? Okay, we're going to come back behind the rail then, and the first thing on to talk about, I think you had your hand up. Yes.
I did already.
Is item number 7.
Yeah. I wanted to applaud number 7 and that program, and Dawn Myers kind of summed it up pretty well for some of the highlights that I wanted to bring to the opportunity that this brings to the students and their families. What I would hope, I hope it's going to be successful. I'm optimistic about that, but I wanted us to be thinking about how it could grow. Some of the things where this opportunity could grow could be during the school year. Maybe we can get some grants or some partnerships that would allow us to let the students, especially at the high school level, be able to ride the buses for free, so they can attend after school programs or go to a job and not be dependent on the school bus that takes them back to their home. There's also missed opportunities when students miss their bus coming to school, and this would allow them to get on the transit system or walk to where there is a route to bring them to school. My son was dual enrolled in part of the Move On When Ready program, and that also provides some different times that the students are coming and going from campuses, and so the transit opportunities for that would also, if we can get to where we're doing this during the school year, not just in the summer, And then while we're growing this program and this pilot program, I would like to see the buses taking them to where we've spent millions of dollars, which would be Sandy Creek Nature Center, Sandy Creek Park, and that would allow some of those destinations. If we're going to get them out to the mall, we should at least be able to get them to the SPLOST and the things that we've spent millions of dollars building. So I'm hoping that we can get that way. And also I think that if we increased what the Clarke County School District student ID can do for the students, it would be maybe more valuable to them, and they would continue to do what it takes to stay in school, to have that freedom and that the incentive and the bonus of the school district. And it could also help with transportation if the buses, if the high school level could be doing transit versus the school buses. It could also make a shift in some of the transportation things down the road. So.
You brought up one that I hadn't heard before, and that's the of them staying in school because it's more valuable than
Yeah.
the card. Great. Listen.
Yeah, I'll second all that. This is an exciting program, and I would like to see it extended throughout the school year. It's kind of common practice in larger cities to allow school children to ride public transit, and some cities have partnerships with school systems. I know my cousins in New York City rode the subway to school. So, in the future we could possibly look into partnerships with the school system that could end up saving them money on their transit expenses. And yeah, I would love to see us extend our service to Sandy Creek, and I hope that is in the cards as we move forward with the transit, the transit survey and study. So this is really exciting, and I feel like encouraging children to ride the bus is creating riders for life. So when they do get out of school and they're paying those fares, it's more money in the fare box, and we have a more sustainable system. So this is great all around. I seldom see kids on the bus. I ride the bus pretty regularly, and I don't see a lot of kids on there, so I look forward to seeing more.
Thank you. Anybody else want to comment on this one? Mr. Sims. Oh, yeah, wait, I should have called on you first.
No, that's okay. This is a recommendation that is coming from our youth task force. One of the things that when we talked with Mr. McDuffie, who heads our transit department, that, it was interesting. We transport 1.6 million people a year on in our transit system, but only about 30,000 of those 1.6 million are children. So we have a very small percentage of kids that actually ride the bus. And this is a pilot that we want to try for the summer to see how we, like as Ms. Lincoln so ably put it, to really create a culture. But also when you think about it, when you think about what it can do economically, even though it's a small amount, but when you think about if a parent has 3 or 4 children and they have to pay for each one of those children at $1.75 per child, that's income that doesn't come out of their pocket that they can actually put into their homes. So it has a value in that manner as well, because it's a savings of them having to figure out how am I going to get my children to places when you don't have a car, that type of thing. So I'm hoping that we will just get excited about this as I am and see how the pilot works, and then we'll we'll come back and ask about the potential of making this a permanent thing for our transit system. But we have a study that's going, so hopefully that will enhance this opportunity for these young people to become, as they say, lifelong riders of transit. So I'm, if nobody else is going to make a comment, I'm asking we put this on consent agenda.
I agree. Anybody else have a problem with it? I think it's one of the best things we've come up with in quite a while. One of the things that I think is very important, it's going to give kids opportunity to possibly have part-time jobs that they could. You talked about the economics. That's putting money into the economy. So that's another good one. Okay, that goes on consent. Jean, we'll go to item number 8. Anyone have anything to say about that?
Yeah, I have a couple things. I guess the first thing I want to address is the Casa de Amistad, mainly because when I went back and looked while they were talking, I went back and pulled up our work session information, and I can't remember, and perhaps the manager can answer this or staff can come and answer it. There were several that scored higher than one of the ones that was granted. in particular Athens Tutorial had a lower score than Casa de Amistad and a couple others. Can you remind me why they were selected and we didn't go with the others that were higher?
Yes, and the visioning committee's ranking or score is only one facet of the total evaluation. Other issues, and I don't have the specifics, but what I'm told is that they had been funded previously, and there were some performance issues there. Secondly, the three that were chosen this is all for direct service provision, and the money that would go to Casa de Amistad would go to the director's salary, and so the three that were chosen served the entire population of Athens-Clarke County and not one segment. So there were just several issues there, I think, that factored into that recommendation.
Okay. Anyone else?
I have some other stuff, but if somebody wants to comment about this
go ahead and finish
first.
that. Yeah.
Did
No,
you?
I thought you were through. Go ahead. And
No,
finish,
well,
and then
Commissioner
we'll
Lee,
come
did
to
you want to comment about Casa de Amistad?
Not specifically. I had some concerns about another.
Okay,
program.
well, then I will finish real quick. You guys know that we've been working on this Georgia Initiative for Community Housing, and Diane and I had a retreat at the end of February along with a lot of our housing partners, and we met last week in a follow-up to that meeting to look again at, we'd made some decisions at our retreat as far as some of our goals and objectives. And the number one priority, I mean, obviously we're addressing workforce housing and affordable housing, but the number one priority is to increase quality and quantity of housing, affordable housing, workforce housing. And with our CDBG funds, I mean, that's pretty much the only funds we have for doing that kind of work. And so I know we have a project on there that's a specific public facility improvement project, the Bishop Park Pedestrian Accessibility Improvement Project, and there's about $136,000 in there that I would prefer to see committed to housing, specifically three of our housing partners that did not get fully funded, Athens Land Trust, Athens Housing Authority, and Habitat for Humanity, who have really good projects, I think, that will help us in our initiative and gain some momentum. The one thing I will note, though, is that the Bishop Park project was a two-part project. There was roughly $125,000 that was supposed to be earmarked for the actual improvement of the sidewalk. And by the way, there is a sidewalk, and it is sufficient. It may not be great, or optimal, but there is a sidewalk into the park off of Hawthorne. I went and looked at it and spent some time there one afternoon just to sort of get a gauge of if it was being used and what it looked like. But the other piece of their request was for some interior fencing, chain link fencing inside the park that they feel like if it came down, it would help people move through the park better and access different amenities of the park. I'd like to leave that in there, and I'll put together a CDO for this. But the only other piece of this that I'd like to suggest, and I've had some conversations with our manager here, is we have, from what I understand, there's currently a project in the works for a teaching learning garden at East Athens Community Center with Cooperative Extension and a gentleman named, now I can't think of his name, Sergeant Broderick Flanagan, who's done a lot of work in East Athens. And they don't have a firm commitment for it yet, but if they do get it, he's going to have to fence it, and roughly, I think they need about $3,200. So, and I think that would be an eligible activity because of the area it's in and all that. So I'll put together, a CDO, but I would like to see that money be redirected toward those purposes.
Before we move forward, Melissa, did you have something you wanted to tell us about that?
Yes, ma'am. In anticipating a question, these funds could not be used to pay for Casa de Amistad because that's the public service category, and we're capped at 15% of the fund. So I saw some wheels spinning. So
I think Commissioner Dickerson took a lot of the words out of my mouth. I had some concerns about the Bishop Park project as well. And I believe at the work session I'd asked for some schematics so we could actually visualize what it was they intended to do, because we were presented with a master plan for that park and we turned it down or put it on hold. We had a lot of problems with it. And without actually seeing that schematic rendering, I'm not sure how effective this project would be in compared to other projects out there that could use the funding. So I'd love to work with Sharon and on a CDO and look into this more.
Anybody else? Andy?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Two things very briefly. I had talked to Commissioner Dickerson beforehand, and I certainly support what she's intending to do. So, the second question I had is I got a question about another item here. So, under item number 8 on page 55 of the PDF, there is a request for funding for something called Computer Certification Training Program for 40 people. Is that to teach people how to take computers apart and put them together, or is that to teach people how to use a computer, you know, basic word processing and that kind of stuff? What exactly does that mean?
I'm not sure, Commissioner. I can provide you some more information outside the meeting.
Please, and I'd like to know how much specifically of that $45,500 is requested for that.
Okay.
Ms. Bell.
Yes, to tag on to Commissioner Dickerson's about the GI, the Georgia Initiative for Community Housing. The one thing we did in our schooling for those 2 days was to learn from the state, other parts of the state, about things they're doing and giving ideas, sharing ideas, and then by next year, we in Athens will be able to present a part of the program because we're the freshmen this year. Next year, we'll be the sophomores. But one of the things they really energized, and it was in Columbus, Georgia, was Fight the Blight. And what I would like to see us look into is to work on a project that will draw a group of people that want to work in neighborhoods to do some energy to help clean up, do things, even get rid of some, whether it's trees, bushes, things that are excessive, but most of all the excessive other things that are obstacles that we need to take care of. And I would like for that to tag on to this initiative to be a part of it.
Thank you. Are you going to work with Sharon? Will that be a part of that?
Well, actually, I didn't get a chance to talk to Commissioner Bell before the meeting, but I did speak with, or got an email back from our manager about that. Unfortunately, we are not able to use CDBG funds for the cleanup unless it was like a specific project. I think we did like Pilgrim Cemetery one year because it was a specific because it was a specific, safety issue. There are, but we can't do this. So, but
well,
I think there may be
ask for
other
donations from the audience then, so we can work on it too.
Pass the hat.
We'll find a way to find some funds. Thank you.
Anybody else on item 8?
I had some questions about the Rose Street sidewalk as well. This is like a little side street that doesn't really see a lot of traffic that connects to Magnolia Street, which has long been on the sidewalk list. It's pretty high up there. I think it's like 17 on a list of a couple hundred. And I'm just wondering if there are any near future plans to actually get around to that Magnolia Street sidewalk. I spent a lot of time in that neighborhood recently, and it seemed like every time I turned a corner, somebody was complaining about speeding traffic on Magnolia and requesting a sidewalk. And when I mentioned that Rose Street was getting a sidewalk, folks were like, Magnolia's the one that needs the sidewalk, even though it is much longer than Rose Street. I don't know. Does the manager have any comments about that?
I do, and as y'all know, we staff goes out and ranks the relative need. I think there's 12 or 13 criteria to try to take the emotion out of deciding for sidewalks and have it a more sort of a factual, a more objective way of looking at it. And so wherever Magnolia is on the list, and I'm not sure, Commissioner Length, it's a function of both of where it falls and funding. So the more funding we have for sidewalks, the quicker we'll go through the list and how it relates to other needs across the rest of the community.
I'm just curious how Rose Street got on the list, got into this project, because it's not really on the list of needed sidewalks. So I'm just kind of confused about the process and the qualifications that street had, where these funds probably could have been applied to another street that actually is on the list.
We'll clarify that for you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. Me? Okay. Thank you. And sorry about that. Commissioner Link brings up Magnolia, and I just remember a few years ago when we were talking about Magnolia, and I know it is high up on the list, and it was from my memory or my recollection, and I may be wrong in saying this, but it was always an issue about which side of the street of Magnolia you were going to put it on, because I know there were some perhaps homeowners over there who wanted on the other side of the street and vice versa. So I think there's more at play than just the money and such as that. So money's certainly at play, but that also.
We're going to spend all that T-SPLOST before we ever vote on it, but
I've got it
one of
going.
the things we'll be able to
There have been some property turnovers there and new families on the street, so it might be worth going back and talking to folks again. There's definitely some new folks on the street and some houses have been fixed up. It's a really sweet little neighborhood.
Great. Okay, well, Smith, okay.
Just to clarify exactly what Mike said, I'm looking at the sidewalk list, and it says needs, more discussion is needed regarding which side of the street. So, you remember, that's quite a memory you have there.
Steel trap.
He's dangerous. He's dangerous sometimes, so be careful. Okay, y'all ready to go to item 9?
Just one last
Yes, sir.
comment about CDBG money being used for Rose Street, even though Magnolia is still also in the census tract. We have census tracts that the reason that this money comes into Athens-Clarke County, and this, and Rose Street is in that census tract, so that makes it that becomes a special project more so than it is on our list of sidewalks, because it meets the criteria of being in the census tract, excuse me, to have those funds allotted to that area. So that's why you see it there versus, and like I say, we having the conversation of which side of the street for Magnolia. And of course, one side has a far greater cost in terms of some topography things that would make it far easier to do it on one side than the other. But again, pushback.
I'm really glad you decided to run for office again, because all that institutional knowledge is there, helps us here once in a while. So, thank you. Are y'all ready to move on to item number 9? Anybody have any discussion? I believe probably number 8 needs to stay off, don't y'all? Okay. Item number 9. Anybody want to speak to that?
Actually, I do. The one thing, well, a couple things. First of all, I appreciate staff's effort to find a way to complete the trail around the park, around the playground area. I went to the second day. I think Andy may be on the first day. I went to the second day of the public meetings, and there were a lot of people that came out. Fortunately, I guess we thought it was going to be a problem, but it actually ended up being really good. We had a kindergarten musical that night, and so everybody funneled in after the musical into the room, and so there was a fair amount of, I think, response provided that night. But I'm very pleased that the trail is going to get completed. The one thing I guess I would note is, and I heard people talking about this at the meeting, and I think it was maybe on the information that we got from staff, but the elementary school that my kids have gone to, Whit Davis Elementary, everybody just calls it Whit Davis. And so if we call this Whit Davis Children's Park, it confuses things. People, don't. Plus there's some, there's a real emotion tied to this place in the first place, because of the amount of money that was spent and the amount of effort that people went to build this facility. And so even though we're going to eventually not have what is right now the World of Wonder, we're going to create a new World of Wonder. I would like for it to continue to be named World of Wonder Park, if that's what we have to call it instead of playground. So I would like that to happen. The only other thing I talked to Manager Williams about was there are several, we're going to take care of the pavers. Those have all been personally stamped and whatnot. Those are going to be moved. But there are some fence posts or boards that have engravings on them. And I understood from an email from our manager today that a lot of them, and perhaps that's true, some of them are warped and stuff, and it would be difficult. I guess I'd want to make an effort to make sure that if anybody, we didn't just throw those away. If people wanted them, they would have access to them. We'd somehow alert the public. Some of those people aren't even here, perhaps anymore, but I wouldn't want to just throw them away if people want them, since they paid for those to be, engraved with, it might be happy birthday or in memory of or something like that. The only other thing that I don't think we addressed was there's a huge marker, a granite marker, that I don't know if you could even move it, but there's a granite marker in place. It's probably easily at least 5 feet by maybe 4 feet, 5 by 3 maybe. Anyway, and it's got all the sponsors, everything on there. I don't know if we would leave it there as the original site or if we could move it or what, but I want it, I think we should somehow preserve it somehow. So those are my feet.
Right. Oh, I thought you were I thought you were pointing at Blaine, and I couldn't figure out why. Mr. Jared.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Although the park sits in Commissioner Dickerson's district, it is across the street from District 8, and a lot of my constituents use that as well. So I would back what she just said 100%, and I think the name in particular is really important to a lot of people, so I would hope that we could figure some way out of using that. The one additional thing is, I believe, unless I'm thinking of somewhere else, is there not also a time capsule out there?
Yeah, and I think that was in. I think it was in our agenda report. I know we
Okay.
talked about it.
But I would want to make sure that that remains, so that people that come along after I'm pushing up daisies will know where it is and can find it.
Anybody else on this one? Okay, well, this one needs to stay.
I have a quick.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Quick. When we had our work session on this, there was some talk about the need for facilities for older kids, possibly basketball court. I don't know if there's any possibility for future phasing of this property, but considering that you do have a pretty significant low-income population over there, and they're increasing crime statistics, it might be something for leisure services to think about for a next phase and accommodating older kids.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Please, we've discussed this some. So.
There is a basketball court in the master plan for Athens-Clarke Park, and it's to be co-located near the skate park because that's sort of similar age, and that's just through the woods from there. So there is plans for that, and we're as SPLOST funding is available, we're trying to make our way through a list of projects. I'm not sure where it is on that list.
Well, the other thing is, I did have the manager's office look into whether or not we would be eligible, and unfortunately, the data that we have doesn't show that we would be eligible for CDBG funds. Our I think it's 41% or something, low to moderate. Not you have to be 51%, so we didn't qualify for it.
But it can be funded through the SPLOST funds,
right?
And so, yeah. And given that we're working on our youth development issues, and I think it fits right in with it if we could somehow bring it higher in priority. So, anybody else? Okay, well, that one needs to stay on. So we'll go to item number 10, which is fire protection services and safety equipment for fire station number 2. Anybody who wants to speak to that? Anybody? I don't think you're ready for it to be on consent agenda, are you?
Well, I am.
You're ready for it to go on consent?
I
okay.
am. Yes, I'm
Is
sorry.
everybody happy for consent? Or is there a reason not to?
Like Mr. Lee Smith on this, it's a situation of as soon as we get the situation squared away with the purchase of land property and we do build the new fire station, it is going to need the equipment. There's no need of us waiting till later to purchase what we know we're going to have anyway.
Is there any reason this couldn't be on consent, Bill?
It can be on consent.
Okay.
Have we come up with the purchase price for the land yet, or is that still?
It's in the.
Is it, which one is the? Okay, I missed it in the history. Okay, I was just curious.
Y'all all through with this item? Well, I'm gonna let y'all know there's gonna be something new on the under new business when we have our meeting on April 5th. I'm gonna be bringing a resolution relating to solar energy, and y'all all have it in advance, but it's not quite ready yet. And it's there's some reasons, and we'll talk about that later, that it's important to go ahead and do it. So now we will go to our recommendation from the planning department. Mr. Griffith is going to come forward and help us. Brad, we're ready when you are.
Ready, Madam Mayor?
Yes, please.
Okay. We have one item for you this evening, which is an amendment to an existing plan development in our commercial office district at 775 Sunset Drive. This is Landmark Hospital. The request of it's a PD, so it's a binding plan. There is a proposed two-phase addition that they would like to begin working on for the hospital, which requires the plan to be amended, which is why we're here tonight. No need to change future development map. And as with all of your plan developments, if approved, this becomes the new binding plan. Property is located on the west side of Sunset, just east of Bishop Park. An aerial view, you can see its proximity to the pool at the park. And a couple of elevations from the street, photographs, entry in the sign, and a more close-up of the entry, which is one of the two locations of the proposed addition. This is actually the phase 2 addition, would be to enclose a portion of that open entry that you see today. Overall plan, the two phases. Phase 1 is the addition of about 10,000 square feet in the rear and a modification of the parking layout. And then phase 2 would be to enclose a portion of what we just saw at the entrance to provide some additional office space and some therapy space as well. Planning Commission recommendation for this plan development amendment is to approve with 3 conditions. The first, there have been some lights over since '07 when this was built that have appeared on site that aren't completely in keeping with our lighting ordinance. This was a good opportunity for us to get them to bring those into compliance. There's some wall packs that need to be shielded, and so making it condition is certainly a good way to get that done, and they have certainly agreed to it. We've had some damage to existing street trees through improper pruning that will need to be replaced as well, and then a bike rack needs to be provided in accordance with Chapter 930. And with that, the recommendation to you for this two-phase expansion of Landmark Hospital from the Planning Commission is to approve.
Okay. Questions? Concerns? Mr. Nixon?
I just want to thank you or the planning department, whoever it was, who took this opportunity to fix their non-compliant lights. Fact is, they put those lights in after they got their certificate of occupancy, and they've been violating our ordinance for years. Tried to get it done, tried to get it fixed a few times, but now we got the opportunity, so we need to hold them to it.
Anybody else have anything to say about this before we end our meeting and go into executive session? Okay. Thank you, everybody. We're going to ask that the room be cleared because we're